Here we go. Good morning, folks. Good morning, Atanas.
Good morning,
Hey, guys.
good morning.
How's it going? It's again Friday, and we're ready for the next podcast. So, Atanas, how's it going today?
Great, bro. Really, really good morning for me. I moved around. I did my morning walk. That's
Nice.
really good for kind of like 30 minutes or so. Just drop some sweat first thing in the morning. And you? How was your morning?
Very good. Already went for a workout. Just jumped out of the shower. This is why I look a little bit like fucked and tired, but all good. So very nice. So last week we talked about books. So I hope that helped you folks at some places just to see what we are reading or what we read and what really helped us and which books actually were impactful for us. And today we had the idea to just speak about podcasts, because we listen to the same podcast on one side, but then also we do not listen to the same podcast, which is, I think, very nice for you guys. And for me, podcasting, or especially listening to them, has been amazing because of two reasons. First of all, when you want to do your own little podcast, it's good to listen to other podcasts to kind of learn how it works and what works and maybe what doesn't. And then also it's just the same with audiobooks and books, that you can just learn from other people. And the great thing with podcasts, it's different every week. So they have different episodes every week. And also you can just listen to it on the fly, when you're walking, when you're biking, whatever. So that's very cool. So I would just suggest that, Atanas, you just speak maybe about your first podcast that you like, and then we play again ping pong. You go back to me, back to you, and then in the end we can speak about the podcast we both listen to.
Absolutely. And I just want to say that it's listening to other podcasters or people who are further in the journey that you want to be. It's like having a big brother, like always watching him. And do you have brothers or sisters?
I have one.
You have one brother?
Yes.
Bigger or smaller?
Older.
Okay, so you know that your older brother is like your king. He's the king of the street. You're all the time watching. You're kind of like watching how he's doing the things, and you're getting really inspired. So I think that with podcasting is something like that. You're watching all of those big bros, how they're doing the things, what kind of stars they're inviting. So I think that's very kind of like positive and motivational to watch how the big dudes are doing the things.
100%.
So
100%.
Today I started my first podcast.
Let's go.
It's from a guy. He's a super funny guy. His name is Seth Feroci. He's located somewhere in the States. I don't know where exactly, but he's pretty wild guy. He looks similar to you with a big beard but a little bit stronger. He's a professional bodybuilder, and his podcast is called HWMF, which translates to hardworking motherfuckers. He swears a lot, but in a really funny way, and he's very motivational guy. I learned most of the things about working out from him, how to structure my workout, how to do proper cardio. So nice. I think that in his podcast, every man, maybe women as well, but I think that it's more about men. This podcast is really focused on young men. So I think that if you're a young man, this is something that you can listen to. And the way how he's doing his workouts, and he's also having like interesting videos. Like one of his videos is called like Chicken and Rice Motherfuckers. And he's talking about his diet and how he's doing the thing. So I think that everybody could get a lot of insights from that if you're serious about hitting the gym hard and just training like a motherfucker, not going on the phone, checking your phone, going in the gym, checking your phone for 10 minutes, sessions, and what should I do now, and things like that. So this guy is going to really help you to get out of your comfort zone and do a badass workout.
Nice. That's cool, man. Does he like all the podcasts like alone, or does he like also interview people and stuff?
He's interviewing people, but as far as I see, the people who he is interviewing are not like famous superstars, like some of the other podcasts that we're going to talk about, I assume. But he's like inviting normal people who are not yet so globally popular, but but he's most of the time with some other people.
Nice. And what do you listen to? Like, is it like on Spotify?
I'm listening to it on YouTube.
Okay.
When it's on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Very
Spotify
nice.
for me, it's for music. I'm trying to separate it. Like Spotify is music and YouTube is for podcasts and such a kind of like content development videos.
Okay, let's just jump on that right quickly because we didn't speak about it, but I think this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you listen to podcasts on YouTube or do you watch them on YouTube?
It's a mixture.
There we go.
Because, you know, sometimes I'm like cooking, for example. Whenever I cook, I love to listen to some podcasts. And, you know, I'm maybe cutting chicken or preparing my rice or something like that. And I cannot see it, but if I hear something really interesting, I'm like, I want to see the eyes of this guy who is selling this cool words. And I go there, I watch it.
Interesting.
Yeah. What about you?
It's more listening.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing is, for example, if I listen to a podcast that I know like the audio is on Spotify and then the video is on YouTube, I kind of listen to the whole thing on Spotify because I really like it. But if I want to see like an expression, like especially like facial expression, I go and watch it again on YouTube because it's kind of different. So that was actually the reason why I asked you, because I think that's very, very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it depends if you have the YouTube Premium, because if you have the YouTube Premium, you can just lock your phone and just let it away. And maybe that's something that's and you can also.
That's a good point.
So yeah, because if you don't have the YouTube Premium, you just need to have your phone all the time unlocked. And I hated it when sometimes you're using YouTube and you just lock your phone and the podcast stops.
That's what I do.
Yes. And my hands are already dirty from the chicken or something like that. Cooking, and it's getting so annoying. So yeah, YouTube, buy YouTube Premium or just stay on Spotify.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Okay, nice one. Let's jump further. Let's go for the next podcast. So, my go-to guy for the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, has been Ed Milet, for freaking sure. So Ed Milet, he's a guy. He became like very wealthy, and he's a speaker. He's a financial guy, and now he's doing like the Ed Milet show for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever. So I've been listening to him for about 2 or 3 years, and he's just so amazing at what he does. I learned a lot from him when I was doing like kind of my Instagram lives and everything on how to speak to people and everything. And he is so freaking interested and just so open-minded when he speaks to people. And the great thing is that he especially has people to talk to. So he does interviews. Maybe he has like 10 interviews. It's always one per week. And then maybe he's going to do a show by himself, or maybe he gets interviewed by somebody else. Very interesting. And the topics are all over the place. Okay. It can be super financial advice from somebody that can be super successful. It's former sports stars like Rodriguez and everything that has been on his podcast. They actually speak about what they learned from sports and how to apply it into business. This week, he has a podcast with Alex Hormozi, who is one of the bigger dudes who now has a partnership with Tony Robbins, where they're going to do something. He also had Jay Shetty on it. He had so many different people, really from health to brain health to sports to financial things. It's both men and women. Lately, he has also begun to invite a lot of people speaking a little bit about like emotion and like psychology of like emotion and stuff like that, because they got very, very important to him. It's very wide and open, and the way he talks to people, it's amazing. What I love about the podcast is it's anywhere usually 45 to 60 minutes. So, the most important thing is just in there, right? And the thing that I believe makes his podcast very interesting is he used to do it like in his house, and then because of COVID, they did it online, and now he has kind of a studio. And what happens is when he invites people, usually they kind of spend the night before together, the evening, they have dinner, whatever, and then they kind of spend breakfast together. So it's not like they meet, they have a podcast, and then they go away again. It's like they meet up, they speak, whatever. Usually he already know the people from somewhere, or they have been connected, and then they kind of warm up. And like the podcast, it's just a part of their day, So I think it makes it very natural when you listen to them and when he kind of speaks about it.
Whoa, that's a really cool concept. I never thought about something like that. Yeah, but that's really cool because you spend some time with that person, you get to know each other.
100%.
Yeah, you're already free to speak your truth. You know the voice of that person, because I think that also plays a huge role into the communication with people. Nice, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, so that's why I really like it, because of two reasons. It's really easy to listen to the people, and always great people to listen to.
With such podcasts, because I see that it's your favorite, are you listening to every single one of the podcasts, or you just listen to the one that you think they can bring you some value?
So I would say that I listen to maybe 80% of the podcast. Okay. So it always comes out on Tuesday, right? So then I hop on Spotify, and then I see who's on the podcast. If that's somebody that I already know from somewhere, I will listen to it 100%. If it's somebody that I don't know about it, but I like the topic, I will listen to it 100%. Okay. If it's somebody I don't know and I'm not too interested in the topic, I might just read the description, maybe check the person on Instagram, and then see if I really want to listen to it or not.
Yeah. Yes, because it's a huge time investment. Like if you think about it, it's like 1 hour from your day.
Yes. But the thing is, on one hand, yes, it's 1 hour of my day. But as you said before, maybe I listen to it when I'm cooking. So I'm cooking anyways, or maybe I listen to it when I'm on my bike. So I am on my bike anyways, so. Yeah.
You're trying to combine it. I think that this is something really special about podcasts, that you can do it while doing something different.
100%.
Like, as we said, cooking, biking, just like walking around. Even in the gym, I have also friends of mine who they love listening to podcasts while they're in the gym. I tried it. I'm not so good with it. Have you ever tried?
I have found something different, brother.
Another level.
That's another level.
Share it with us.
I have found. I'm gonna share it after that with you and with the people listening. I have found an application. It's called Mindset. Okay, and within that application, it's actually the same as with YouTube. You have a lot of like motivational videos. Okay, so here's the thing. When I am in the gym, I either listen to motivational speeches that go like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, or I listen to music. When I listen to podcasts, often I am too focused on my workout to really understand the good thing about the podcast, so I am afraid that I miss something. So, like, for example, when you're in the workout and you're repping out, and maybe you're like at rep 10, 11, 12, you're very focused on your reps.
Absolutely.
And if he says something very interesting, I just might miss it because I'm just so focused, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is with like the motivational speeches, it's just like about motivating yourself, and just like, it's not that I go crazy, but it just keeps me on that kind of high level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understandable.
What about you?
In the gym, music. I've been trying motivational speeches and things like that. It works sometimes when I'm kind of like down, but music is the best. And I'm just like switching the type of music. Sometimes electronic music, sometimes heavy metal, sometimes rock, sometimes rap, like German rap or English rap, whatever. I'm really trying to be all the time listening to different music, but still music, because this keeps me focused.
100%.
And my mind stays in the gym. My mind is not wandering. Like I'm not somewhere with the people where what they're talking about something or so.
That makes a ton of sense.
Cool stuff. Should I hit the other podcast?
Let's go for the next one.
Nice. Next one is called Impulsive, and it's from Logan Paul, Mike, and George. I think that almost everybody knows Logan Paul already. Most of the people know him as this stupid kid on YouTube who is making dumb things. But in my opinion, this guy is a genius, and he has a really, really, maybe one of the strongest personal brands, to be honest, at our time, because he built the thing so good. And I think that he's my age. He's like 28 or 27 or so. So for such a young man to be so popular and do such a great things, I just admire him. Like everybody's doing stupid stuff, but not everybody's so successful as him. So this dude, it's lit. And on his podcast, he's inviting a lot of famous people. Like I think that the last podcast of him was with Arnold Schwarzenegger, bro.
Yeah.
Which is huge. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of the greatest men ever. There is his book. So, and other people that he's invited is like Snoop Dogg, Gary Vee, like he also invited Kevin from the Shark Tank. Do you know Kevin?
Yes.
Mr. Wonderful. And for example, you're seeing Mr. Wonderful in the Shark Tank as somebody who is pretty serious and, you know, all the time talking about investments and so. And when he went to Logan Paul's podcast, he was really open. They were talking about crypto, weed, like all of those topics that are kind of like popular and hot topics that everybody's talking about, and how the generations are changing. And I would say that it's pretty cool. Also with Gary Vee, it's a must watch. It's like 2 months. It was 2 months ago, and this is like a must watch podcast for everybody who wants to be fit in this digital age. I think that they're speaking a lot of good things.
100%. I also saw the one with Grant Cardone that he did. And it's so interesting because, as you said, he's just very young, you know, and he just happened to be able to do so many things. And I think that he did a lot of like those crazy, funny bullshit things when he was younger. And now he's getting like, I think a little bit more serious, also like on the podcast, how he speaks to people and everything. But he has such a strong personal brand, right? That people just want to listen to him. And the crazy thing is that he has millions of followers, because of his personal brand. And then you bring another person that also has millions of followers because of their personal brand, and then you match it together, and it's super nice.
Super nice. And I think that he's really inviting one of the biggest stars and the people that are very interested in our time.
Yes.
And I think that that's the cool thing about podcasting, because I remember when I was young and there was only like TV shows and things like that. And when they invite some superstar, they're just like talking, they're asking them the stupidest questions on earth. And the talk is like 3 minutes because, you know, it's on TV and this time it's really fucking expensive.
100%.
Now in our age, like with all those podcasts, like you can invite like people like Tony Robbins or Arnold Schwarzenegger, as we said, Dana White, for example, people who, for example, very interesting for me. And I want to know more about them, like not just like, hey, how old are you? Do you have kids? And like, where are you living now? And those stupid TV questions. And I see that people way more open to share their life and say how they succeed, talk about
Yes.
their challenges, talk about their wins. And so I find this really inspiring.
100%. So I really like that. That's so important what you just said. It just gives a platform for people outside of basically other things, right? For example, that's also what Joe Rogan said, and we're going to speak about it later on. But he says, for example, if you're a doctor, if you're a physician in something, right? Without a podcast nowadays, it's impossible to really share your thoughts. You know, you can write a paper and the paper will be read by some people. But if you can go on a podcast like a Joe Rogan podcast, and you're just somebody at, I don't know, Stanford or Harvard, and you're just in your lab the whole day, but you're doing crazy things and great things that people should know about it. For example, so there is a Huberman who is a crazy guy about like stem cells and everything, and that's it, it's going to work. And he just has his lab in, I think it's Stanford where he at, Stanford, Harvard. And he's a physician, crazy guy, but basically he's in the lab the whole day. And now he also has his own podcast. But he has been on the Joe Rogan podcast, I think about 3 times now. And it's crazy every freaking time. But other than this, he would have no voice to be able to share with people, you know. And they also talk about the thing that how is it possible that you have like influencers who have like 30 million followers who don't do any good thing, right? That just whatever they're doing, right? And then you have other people that research a lot of things, but nobody listens to them, you know? So how can they have a bigger voice, or how can they actually explain and display what they do?
True, absolutely. Yeah. Let's say thanks God for all of the podcasts and all of the really free and accessible knowledge that we all can gain from those things.
100%. Yes. So when it comes down to
your next podcast,
so when it comes down to more knowledge, I like to go with Alex Hormozi. Alex Hormozi, he has a podcast. It's called The Game. For those who don't know Alex Hormozi, I just got to know him a couple of months ago. He's very funny, interesting, and a serious guy. So basically, his background is he used to be a personal trainer, I think, and had a own gym. And he was struggling a lot. And then somehow he kind of figured out how to scale his business. And then he was like, oh, okay, let's help other gyms to scale their gyms, right? And he scaled like thousands or hundreds of gyms across the US. And now he has a company which is called Acquisitions. So basically, if you make at least 3 million in turnover, you can apply with him and he's going to help you to scale. Okay, so that's basically what he does now. That's his business model. Whatever business you have, if you make at least 3 million, he goes like, if you make 3 million, I know what you're doing. You're doing good, and I'm just going to help you scale it to whatever. And the interesting thing is, for me, first of all, he was on other podcasts like the School of Greatness from Lewis Holmes, which is also crazy. And on his own podcast, which is called The Game, he only does like, I think max 20-minute podcasts, but most of them are like 10 to 20 minutes. Okay. So it's 10 to 20 minutes on one topic, which I think is great because, again, it's not interview people. He's talking about a topic, which I think it's way harder than having a conversation with somebody, way harder. So he just speaks 10 to 20 minutes about mistakes that he does or that he did, about things that he had with his dad, why that like blocked a lot of what he wanted to do and everything. So I really like to listen to him also, like maybe once a week or something, because I can concentrate on his podcast and listen to him only for about 10 plus minutes. And I think that's very plannable, so you can just listen to him. And also, for me, that's the most important thing. Most of the time, or not most of the time, but sometimes when you listen to a conversation, you just listen to it. Yeah. It's nice. And you have a good feeling, like maybe it motivated you, but it doesn't put you into action every time. And with Alex, like his goal of the podcast, when he does like those 10 to 20 minute podcasts, it's really giving you something that you can actually put into action right away. Something that you can either put into action, so something new that you can apply, or something that you actually can stop. So he was actually speaking about that idea of like, the season of actually saying no, because we all have kind of like routines and rituals, but we always want to add new routines and new rituals, instead of thinking about which routines and rituals we actually already have that we don't need, So people don't really think about it. That, for example, if you, in the morning when the alarm clock goes on, and then you just like hit the snooze, okay? You just do it like almost unconscious, but it's a routine.
Absolutely.
But it's not a good routine, So he had like, on one of the podcasts, he had the philosophy of, instead of adding new routines, think about which routine you can actually take away that harms you. Like, for example, if you get home in the evening and you spend 30 minutes on Instagram, maybe think about not doing this anymore, like stuff like that. So it's very like, it's really, really actionable, and you can just like put it into action right away.
Indeed. And when you say about that, like, many people are asking you, hey, how do you have time in the morning to do yoga, to do meditation? And so I'm just not using my phone in the morning. Like,
dude, you don't shit around.
I'm just not going on the fucking Instagram for half an hour. Like,
yes, 100%.
Nice. So I think that
100%.
Next podcast, we're both huge fans of that guy called Joe Rogan, with the powerful Joe Rogan experience. Do you want to share a couple of words about it, or maybe I can go and then you can say also what do you like most about him?
Just go ahead.
So the thing that I like about Joe Rogan is that he's just Joe Rogan, man. He's himself. He do not try to hide something or so. He's so open, and all of his guests are badass motherfuckers. Like, he's really inviting interesting people. We can start from Mike Tyson, Elon Musk, or like, I think that all of the elite, the world elite, was at his place. And I think that he already has more than 1,500, or I don't know how many episodes.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I think that it's more than 1,500. Yeah. Huge. And this guy is so cool. And he's just like drinking whiskey, talking about so many different topics there. It's so cool, man. And this is maybe the podcast that I follow really closely. And sometimes I'm getting not mad, but kind of like annoyed that there are people who know who the Kardashians are, but they do not know who Joe Rogan is. Yeah. Like, there are people who are following such a stupid things on earth instead of educating themselves and really seeing this different point of view and seeing all of those kind of like people who has something to show to the world, as you said previously. Like, not just some random influencer who are just like selling you hand creams or face creams or whatever. Like, you can just go on Joe Rogan's podcast and listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson or people like that who are shaping the world, and they're sharing a lot of experiences and a lot of background work, because normally most people we see the books when they're ready, the movies when they're ready, the researches when they're ready, but there is so much work behind all of those things. And I think that at the Joe Rogan's podcast, people are really sharing a lot of work, what they're doing. And one of my there are many favorite, but there is a guy called Jesse Elser or something like that was his name. Do you know him?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's like he's an American entrepreneur. And his talk with him is really, really funny.
Oh, that's the guy who had Goggins at his home. Yes.
Same guy.
Yes.
And he's talking about how was the life with Goggins, and he's explaining like, hey, Goggins was, I think that most of people know David Goggins, and David Goggins is a badass dude. I think that he's the toughest man on earth. He was also at Joe Rogan's podcast, and this guy Jesse he was living with David Goggins for a month, and he's telling like all of the ridiculous things that he was making him doing it. Like before meeting, he was like, burpee test, and he was like, I was naked only with my underwear in my office, and I started doing burpees. Or they just go running the rain or something like that. Or every single morning, this guy David Goggins was going to Jesse, and he was like, "Wake up, motherfucker!" And yeah, it's a really cool story. Have you watched this podcast or no?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm gonna share it with you. Definitely, you're going to laugh your ass off.
Man,
so, what's your favorite thing about Joe Rogan?
One of the favorite things ever actually came out lately, that I think from what I heard, that Donald Trump wanted to be on Joe Rogan's podcast. And Joe Rogan said, I don't want to do it because that's going to give him too much audience, So that's about how big Joe Rogan is, And so first of all, what I love about Joe Rogan, about the person, is that I think he's really lazy normally, but he's so disciplined about everything, and he just get it done, and he just does it. And I think that's very cool, because a lot of people that we listen to, we all think that, well, they are super motivated all the time. No, like they're never lazy, they never do something. And I think Joe Rogan is a great experience, and also like a great person to just be like, listen to and learn from, and be like, so also when he talks about his whole life, I mean, he's now, I think 55, or he's going to turn 55. So he was a comedian, still is a comedian. He still does things with UFC and everything. And he just started the podcast out of nothing. And now it just became what it became, right? But I think it's a great example of how to just get started and just keep it going and just do the work. And also, like, he used to live in LA, and things didn't really go the way he wanted there with like the whole politics. So he moved to Texas. So I really like this. The thing is that he now built like a whole gym and everything around the studio that he has. And now actually the deal, if people want, they can like come in, work out with him, and then jump on the podcast, he's very, very similar to Ed Milet on that. I think that he also goes to dinner with the people the night before and everything. And when you listen to the podcast, it's very interesting because they speak. So when you listen to the podcast, it just starts at some point. Yeah. And the reason is that they speak for like 5 or 10 minutes. And then when they're like on the go, it starts recording.
Yeah.
And that's a very nice flow to like start. The thing that I think it's crazy about the Joe Rogan podcast is that you listen to great podcasts, like let's say Andrew Huberman, who was on last week and everything. You listen to freaking 3 hours. Okay. We were speaking before about time investment of like 45 or 60 minutes. You listen to 3 hours. It's not boring. It's just listening to a great conversation. And the funny thing is, because it's 3 hours, you have the feeling that you are sitting on a table with them. That you're just there, sitting on the table, and because they're like so open and they smoke cigars and they smoke weed and drink beer, whatever, whiskey, you really think that they're just having a nice conversation. They just forgot that there is a mic and the camera. They just speak to each other. And then if somebody says something that's also very good, is his assistant, Jamie, who is always looking things up on like Google, and then they check Google together and everything. So it's it's not only that they speak about things, but they also they check it on like Google and like YouTube to like see if it's very true and everything. That's very cool. I have started to listen to Joe Rogan maybe 1.5 years ago, very intensely, because when the height of the pandemic was there, with like masks and vaccines and everything, we're not going to speak about what's good or what's not good. But what I really liked about the Joe Rogan podcast is that he invited people who had like a huge knowledge and were speaking about it freely on both ways. So you had people that said good things about it and people that said, hey, look, you have to be aware of like a couple of things here. And the people who said, hey, you have to be aware that it's not all good, those people, they were banned from YouTube and they were banned from everywhere. And the only place they had was basically with a huge audience, was basically go with with Joe Rogan, because Spotify obviously is from Sweden and they have a little bit of a different like thinking about like freedom of people than the US and like freedom of speech and everything. So I really like it, and also still like it on the Joe Rogan podcast, that he can really speak freely about everything and with everybody on different topics. And you don't get that everywhere, because he just goes like, well, if people don't want to listen to me, just stop listening. Like he literally doesn't care. He literally doesn't care, you know? And because he doesn't care, it's getting better and better.
Absolutely. Yeah, because he's himself. He shouldn't play any role or something like that.
100%.
And then that's why I think that the people are also themselves. Like people are not trying to be somebody else or something like that. And it's not this staged shit that we are seeing on TV. And I'm a strong, like, not hater, but I really do not like TV, and I do not like the shows that they're on TV. Most of them, like maybe there are 2-3 good ones, because everything is so staged. But when you're looking at podcasts and everything, it's so free, and you're just enjoying that people. 100%. They're not robots, they're not machines, they're themselves. And that's what I really like, especially by Joe Rogan.
Yeah, and he also, I mean, he's a hard-working guy. You know, like he does a couple of the podcasts like every week, and those podcasts go like 3 hours, something like that. So
I was thinking, like, is he producing like 1 podcast per week or
no more?
Okay,
more.
Crazy.
Yes. It's crazy. But again, for him, when you listen to him and he speaks about it, it's like it's not work, because he's just there and he just speaks and he asks questions because he's interested, you know. And also, like with some people, that's very interesting. On some podcasts, if you invite somebody, you just let them speak, but you don't ask critical question if they say something. And he's the opposite. If he invites somebody, or somebody like asks if he can go on the podcast, and they say something, and he goes like, wait, can you say that again? Like, that doesn't make sense. So he's very critical of what people say if they cannot back it up, you know. And he's not gonna let go. He's like a freaking pit bull. He's like a freaking pit bull, and he's gonna say, look, what you're saying doesn't make sense to me. And if it doesn't make sense to me, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people listening to the podcast. So, you know, so he's very good. Like, he's very no bullshit on this. Yeah. So, like, no shit. Like, if there is like 5 people I could wish to go to dinner with, like Joe will be just one guy, because first of all, he's so like knowledgeable because he spoke to everybody. And secondly, I think there would just be like a very fun dinner because he's such a fun guy. Yeah.
True. And one of the funniest things is that I've been watching lately is about the stoned ape theory. Do you know this one?
No.
There was a guy who is explaining that we are human beings now because millions of years ago, the apes started eating like shrooms, like magic mushrooms. And from there, the mushrooms helps us to develop our brains and so. And there is one guy who dedicated his whole life
really
on understanding this thing, and that's pretty funny. And I know they're kind of like explaining the connection between mushrooms and people, and so the topics there are so cool. And every time, like maybe you're not going to be 100% supporter of that, but it's cool to listen to such things because you're kind of like. It opens your mind and helps you to build your creativity and see the world from a different perspective. Like because there are people who say we came from Adam and Eve, or we came from like just the apes. Something happened, magic.
Yes.
But for example, this guy brings a whole another theory, and 100%. There are many different topics like that by him. So
yes, yeah. It's great how open he is and how he can talk to everybody. And what I also like, maybe to finish this up, is when you scroll through Spotify, because he's basically only on Spotify, and you can also watch the video on Spotify, by the way, that's also great, is that he has like different guests, and then he also brings like UFC fighters on. He brings comedians on. I have never listened to anything like that. I listened to one of them on Monday. It's just fucking funny. And it's just like super interesting stuff. And he just has that variety of people that other podcasts don't have, because he goes like, look, in the end, this is my show. I want to talk to people that I want to talk to. If people are going to listen, they're going to listen. If they're not going to listen, they're not going to listen. I don't care. Yeah. And that's so nice.
Yeah, really cool dude. I wish him a lot of success with everything that he's doing.
100%.
Badass motherfucker.
100%. 100%.
Nice, bro. It was a pleasure. I really enjoyed this podcast.
Same. I enjoyed the podcast speaking about podcasts. Nice one. Yeah. So for the people listening, I think that we're gonna put in the links anyways, right? So that you guys can check what we check out on podcast levels and everything. And then for next week, I think, Atanas, we can speak a little bit about the topic of morning routines and stuff like that, because I believe you're doing great stuff. I believe I do good stuff too. I also would like to share to people that sometimes we also fuck up our morning routine, and this is part of the game.
I'm really good at that.
Yeah. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, sounds, just to put like, if there are some people who can share some of their favorite podcasts or so, feel free to share it down in the comments.
I like it.
Super happy to see what you're listening to, what are your fans of. So yeah, please share some of your podcasts. That's down in the comments.
That's great. We forgot about it with the books last week.
Yes.
So now
we can also go.
Now we're getting better. So if you listen to any podcast, please hit it up with the podcast, share your podcast, and then we can see what's cool out there.
Like, subscribe, and comment.
Yeah, something like that.
Yes, and I would really love to do the morning routine podcast. That's gonna be great.
Yeah, let's do that. That's gonna be
fun. I love
my
morning routine, but I'm really, really good at making a bad morning routine as well. So yeah, we can speak a lot about that, and from personal experience, not just like something
100%
or something like that.
Let's do this. All right, cool.
Hey guys, enjoy the week whenever you're listening to that, and yeah, see you next week.
Yeah, have a good one, guys. As always, win the day. And Atanas, as always, thank you for making this happen. Great stuff.
You're more than welcome. Ciao.
All right. Ciao.